I'm daydreaming about dragons again. This is Judd, and I want to talk about tabletop role playing games and having artifacts, having things. And they can be anything. I don't care what it is. Have a valuable thing to remember a game by. And you know what? Something that I've been doing it's so simple and so silly that I can't believe I don't do it more. I can't believe I don't do it at every game I play, is getting together with the people at the table and taking a selfie. How simple is that? Just remember the game in some way. And you know how you take a picture, sometimes you say cheese. There's always something silly that or interesting or funny that happens at the game that you can use instead of cheese, right? So, everybody say goblin head because somebody took out a goblin head and started rolling it down the dungeon floor. Last game I was in, we named this rookie Stabber because he stabbed a bad guy, and everybody started calling him Stabber. But I actually have this really ancient name I'm really proud of. Okay, Stabber, whatever, Stabber. Oh, Stabber, you're funny. Stabber. And it was great. I really liked it. So when we took a picture, everybody said, everybody say Stabber. And we all laughed because it was a memory. And it's a great picture. So, but it doesn't have to be a picture, right? Maybe that's not your thing. And it doesn't have to be the thing that I was doing for a really long time is I would always write a really long and involved actual play post, and it was laborious, and I loved it, and I'm glad I did it, and it helped me communicate techniques that worked, and it helped. And then years later, I've got actual play posts that are 10 years old, and it's nice to go back and look at those, but it doesn't have to be that. Everybody can write down on a note card one sentence. What was your favorite moment? And just take those. Take pictures of those. 10 words or less. Best moment of the game. Favorite thing. You could say pizza. That's fine. Whatever it is. Good memory of the game. Friends, pizza, brews. Cool. That's great. Put it in with the mix. I think I hate to say this, I just turned 45, so maybe that's why I'm saying this. As we get older, we're going to want ways to remember these old games. And as you go through life, there are going to be ups and downs and times when you're gaming a lot and times when you're not able to game at all and times when you really miss it and times when you kind of hate it. And it's nice to have artifacts of the good times. So that is my advice for today. Create an artifact, something, a little something, so that you have a memory for this game. And the cool thing is if you're gaming regularly, you put these artifacts together and then you have something larger, right? I don't know what it is. Is it a scrapbook? Does every campaign kind of end up with that goes on for a long time end up with a scrapbook? That's cool. One thing we did is we got a GM. We all pitched in. This was my idea. A friend of mine ran a game, and we all pitched in and got him a medieval replica weapon. Right, the game was set in Renaissance Italy, so we got him a really nasty dagger, and it was cool. It was really cool, and it's a fun way to say, hey, thank you very much for doing this for us. I appreciate it. That was nice. So I'm not saying you have to buy gifts for your GM. That's not something culturally I want to say. But it was a nice way to remember things. And they've got that now. So it was great. Artifacts. And I think that it's cool if games actually create the artifacts. That happens too. Some games have maps that you draw or whatever, what have you. I feel like the only artifacts very often we end up with are we have character sheets. And we've got kind of old maps of the world. I end up with GM notes. I've never found a way to really take GM notes. That's a whole other episode. But these are the things I end up finding is GM notes and character sheets. And I'd love to have more. more artifacts, more things that showed we played these games. Because our friends aren't going to be here forever. I don't want to get too maudlin. I don't want to have my midlife crisis right here on air. But nothing's forever. You're going to want to remember this. Find creative ways to do it. We're in a creative hobby. Find creative ways to do it. As simple as a picture, as brief as a haiku, but get it down and get it archived so that you can look back in days to come and say, oh man, we visited some cool fictional places. We sure did. If you guys and gals and folk make artifacts for your games, if you're finding that your game creates a certain artifact, like exhaust out of a car, but cooler and less deadly, let me know what it is. I'd love to hear about it. Tweet at me, email me, judd.karlman@gmail.com. My Twitter is always in the show notes. You can message me on the Anchor app if you want to leave me a message. And what artifacts of play are you creating and saving? How will we know that your games happened when we're all gone? Ooh, chilling. Chilling. Cool. Thanks for listening. Inspiration Goat, hit me up. Artesia by Mark Smylie. Good one, Inspiration Goat. So Artesia is a series of graphic novels by Mark Smylie. Artesia Field, Artesia Afire. It's about a mercenary captain who becomes more than a mercenary captain. There's a lot of cool magic, a lot of cool spirits, and that's really what I want to talk about Artesia. Fair warning, lots of sex, lots of violence, and then lots more sex. A lot of sex. I've heard the graphic novel described as porn, which I'm comfortable with, but if you're not, just letting you know, if you're looking for a gift for a child, this is not one I'd go for. This is adult content. Okay. Artesia is a world rich with spirits, and I really like how it works. I think it's really interesting, and it makes me think about gaming a lot. So how do we do that? So there's an example. There's one scene where Artesia kind of uses her witch vision to look over a crowded court, a king's court. And there are all these knights and soldiers and people with magical weapons. And when she uses her witch sight, she can see the dragons, the angels, these spirits that are bound to pieces of armor, swords, weapons, all kinds of stuff. It's really neat. So I'm thinking about that. How do you do that, right? And there's also things where people die and their ghosts are bound. Cool. Let's think about that a little bit. I don't think we need to make up a whole magic system to do that, but we kind of do. Once you start tinkering with this, you're going to make a whole system. But let's start simple. Let's say a couple things, right? When you kill something, you take responsibility for its ghost. As soon as you make that rule, the game changes, right? Because as soon as they kill somebody, that ghost is bound to them. That's interesting. What happens if there's powerful magic on castle walls, where if you die assaulting that castle, you are bound to the walls? If you die, around that castle without being welcomed in, you are bound. Your ghost gets bound to the walls to protect it. Nasty. Seems like a spell that would happen, right? Makes sense. And moving, then we have to think about the player characters, right? What do the spirits see when they see them? We could have, two cross-secting things that the spirits see. They see their heritage, where they were born, how they were raised, and they see their career oath, perhaps. And their career oath can start as whatever maybe it's their class. Druid, fighter, rogue, whatever it is. Maybe they don't have a career oath yet. Maybe they've spoken oath. They haven't spoken that oath. They just have their birth oath, right? Which when the spirits look at them, they can look back into time and see what their ancestors have done, and see what they might do, And they're very judgmental about it, because in their minds, these young species just don't tend to do well. And this is the kind of stuff Artesia gets me daydreaming about. And then how do you make those oaths? Maybe the adventuring party gets powerful enough and they can found, I don't know, an oath stone? Let's call it that. And that binds the party. And that puts the party on the map in the spirit world. And suddenly their relationships with all the spirits starts being counted, right? And you can count relationships with the different spirits just like you would do factions in Blades in the Dark, right? Different, and the spirits in your world can be whatever they are, right? Are there river spirits, castle spirits? What are there? Glade spirits? Are dragons a type of spirit? And you can keep track of where they are based on what they do. And everything they do and every adventure they have somehow affects the spirit world. Sometimes they'll make people angry. Sometimes they make people happy, right? You go into tombs. You break those seals. You might anger the dead faction. You bind ghosts, put them to work, do well by them, put them to rest, allow them to rest after a reasonable amount of labor, whatever that is. Maybe your faction rating with the dead goes up. Maybe you get a reputation among certain spirits, burning wheel style. It's up, and you can keep track of that. Little ticks, tick, 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 easy peasy. As I said, as soon as you start this, it becomes a system. Suddenly you're designing a game, or I'm designing a game, whatever. But that's what Artesia gets me daydreaming about. And in Artesia, there's this really rich, complicated world. And in my mind, for gaming purposes, I would keep it dead simple and let it get complicated on its own, because it's going to get complicated. The players are going to get enmeshed in ridiculous factional strife. And it's going to get really complicated. They're going to help one person one day and then hurt them the next day indirectly because of something they do. And that's okay. That's more than okay. Complicated world is where it's at. So I would start simple and then let it get complicated all on its own. And that's how you kind of make a history. How you get the game going, And if you need to know how these two other factions relate to one another, it can either be something that makes sense, right? The dead and and maybe the dead and the elements get along really well, right? Because the elements eat the dead and allow them to, go back to the earth or go back to the sky or whatever it is. Fire eats the dead. The air the air eats the dead through raptors and stuff, you can figure out which factions have problems and which don't. And if you don't want to, you can always roll some dice. Let's see how these guys get along. Boop boop, made a little table. Oh, they're not friendly. Oh, they're feuding. Whoop, they're at war. Cool. What happens when the spirits of fire and the spirits of the castle go to war and aren't talking to one another? Do no torches work in castles suddenly? Hearth fires go out? That's a problem. We got to solve that. It's cool stuff. As soon as you give something motivations, something that we take for granted, just give it motivations. Give it feelings. Suddenly things get intense. Things get really intense. And as I said, as I started, you can start really, really simple. You know, when you kill something, you take responsibility for its ghost. Welcome to the world. Violence, it's a nice, easy way to say violence has consequences. Violence has metaphysical consequences. You know? Neat stuff. Really neat stuff. So that is Artesia, and that is what Artesia is inspiring me to think about with gaming lately. You know? Making simple rules, creating a spiritual world the players can delve into and bind and affect and summon. I like that stuff. I hope you liked it too. If you've got thoughts on how your spirit world works in your game, on how you create a metaphysical reality at your table, I'd love to hear about it. You can tweet at me. Ravens, pigeons, carrier hawks from Avatar: The Last Airbender. They work too. Any animal with a little message. Email judd.karlman@gmail.com. My first name, my last name, with a dot in the middle at Gmail. Hit me up. Hit me up. Or you can get the Anchor app and you can drop me a line and I'll get you on a Wednesday reply show. I would love, love, love to hear from you. Let me know what's going on at your table. I hope your spring is going okay. Pollen's been walloping on me a little bit. My eyes have been a little rough, but Zyrtec D is holding them back. See how it goes. I hope you're enjoying some mud and hope you're enjoying some spring. You made it. Made it through winter. You know? I hear it might be coming again. So let's get ready. Let's use these months. Store some stuff in our silos. Get ready. Get prepped. I'll be here.